All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the recap. Michael D'Angelo, joined as always by my partner in crime, Mr. Big D, Daryl Ortiz. Another week in the books for Raw and SmackDown, I will say on the road to Crown Jewel.
Yeah, yeah. On the
The
road to Crown Jewel, not
detour.
much. Yeah, the detour the obligatory detour.
Yeah,
We should call it.
it really, like, this is a weird time of year where if
Uh,
at least I feel like all storylines get abandoned for this one pay-per-view where they kind of pivot everything, and I feel like
yeah,
we saw some of that on both shows and we continue to see that. But let's just dive right into Monday Night Raw. 2 hours of Monday Night Raw because we're still in the
yeah.
two-hour
2 hours.
schedule.
Thankfully, that's great. Makes it so much easier. But yeah, this
Yeah.
sounds like they're getting better little by little each week and getting the timing down of stuff, getting the rhythm going. This one didn't feel very long-winded. It was straight to the point. I mean, you had the beginning come out opening match was Liv Morgan, the tag team of Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Rhea Ripley and Tiffany Stratton. Of course, that came to fruition because um, Rhea Ripley was irritated at the fact that they had she was doing her promo. You know, they had the camera follow her into the ring. Had a brain fart for a second there, but yeah, they had her follow down to the ring, did her entrance, talked about Liv Morgan and running down that she never lost the title, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And then that's when I believe it was Tiffany Stratton came out to interrupt her and made a surprise out there and just kind of jaw jacking with her. And so they had Liv Morgan Rodriguez. They don't call her Gonzalez anymore, Rodriguez. So that's awesome. She
Yeah.
gave her back. They gave her back her name. Of course, they come out and just kind of level them out. So I mean, it really all of this done just to set up a tag match for later on. Obviously
Yeah.
between Rhea Ripley, and it was kind of dumb because you knew it was coming, but Rhea's like, I don't have a partner. I can't use Damien.
I
Well,
know.
duh,
I don't
you
have a
can't use
partner.
Damien.
It's got.
It's not a mixed tag team match. So they're like, then
Yeah.
so of course Tiffany Stratton comes in and he's like, well, yeah, that works.
I
And then
can't
like,
believe they disrespected me. I can't believe this.
yeah,
You need to do something about it. It was like very, very telegraphed. And it was, I will say this though. I was excited to see, I was like the prospect of, oh, hey, we're going to get Tiffany Stratton versus Rhea Ripley. That can be kind of cool. Um,
yeah,
the match,
that'd be a decent
we'll get
match.
to the
Yeah.
match.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty much all this just to set up, tag match for later on tonight. This doesn't really
Yeah.
further the storyline very much as far as Liv Morgan and Nia Jax, but that will come into play later on. Of course, after that, we had the Women's Tag Team Championship match, which was Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill versus Damage Control, which was actually a really fun match. The only thing that kind of bothered me about it, of course, you had Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson ringside conveniently. And they had a great match, a good back and forth. They had lots of offense on both ends. Of course, both teams work extremely well together, and their movesets are phenomenal, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's great. Jade's getting better week by week by week by week. It's showing, and it's really good to see that because I can see them eventually having the split up and it being Jade versus Bianca is going to be a great match whenever that does happen. But even if it doesn't, Jay's looking a lot better each week, so that's awesome to see. Unfortunately, the match was kind of air was kind of let out when, of course, you had Jaw jacking at ringside and
Yeah.
Lash Legend just gave the forearm to Io Sky, which I guess she hit her so hard from the audience, she knocked her over to the ring apron. At which point, Bianca Belair didn't see it. The ref didn't see it. Bianca Belair just got her in, finished it, and won. So, of course, that victory tainted by that interference. What did you think of the match?
Yeah, the match was good. Like I really enjoyed it. I will
Uh-huh.
say I did think it was tainted by the finish and
Uh-huh.
it felt like they were trying very, very hard to have everyone save face in this one.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to have the champs lose, but they didn't want Io Sky to look weak, so they were going to do the interference thing. I thought Io Sky was great in this one. I thought
Yeah.
the pop up insane elbow
Yeah,
where
that
she
was
launched
great.
Harry up in the air.
Yeah,
That was awesome. I really
I
enjoyed
agree.
that. It was good stuff. It was just the finish left something to be desired, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe they're leading up to a triple threat or something. We'll see what happens with that. But after that, we actually had, if I'm not mistaken, I'm looking back at my other stuff here. Yeah, that was probably up next was probably my match of the night. We had the Alpha Academy versus the re-debuting War Raiders. They're no longer the Viking Experience or the Viking Raiders or anything with Vikings. And I like how they kind of they had to tell the audience because they've been gone from TV for so long. As far as I think it was Eric that's been gone for so
Well,
long.
yeah,
Or
Eric
Ivar, I'm
was
sorry.
hurt.
Yeah, Eric was hurt.
Well, Ivar's been like wrestling. Was wrestling like every single week, and now
Yeah,
you've got Eric that's back.
yeah, because then all of a sudden Ivar just like disappeared for a while too. So it was just like okay, but it was cool because they said Vikings, and they're like, oh, is this the Viking? Right? Then it just like they got their old music back from NXT, which I love. I'm a huge fan of. We don't have the awkward "Hala is here." I hated that in the beginning of it because it
Yeah.
sounded so scripted. It sounded so terrible, and so I'm happy to hear they got their old music back. They got their old ring gear back. They're not doing the face
Yeah, the old
painting.
ring
They're
gear
not
was
doing the
cool.
props. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So they came out hot. They had a great match with Otis and Tozawa. I mean, Otis and Tozawa are great performers in the ring. Seeing
Yeah.
Ivar and Otis go at it, I think Ivar hit like a spinning heel kick, which was pretty cool to see for a big guy. It wasn't it wasn't a long match. It wasn't fast either, but it wasn't long. But it did them justice, right? It was a good debut for them. Of course, they went over, they won. They beat Alpha Academy with that new finisher they have, which I'm actually pretty much a fan of. It's almost like a fall away slam into like a splash, which is really really cool. I forget the name that they gave. No, the Fallout.
I think
is
it's
what they
called
call
the
it.
Fallout. Yeah, the Fallout.
The Fallout. And of course that moved them along in the number one contenders tournament for the tag titles, which is pretty cool to see. So, what did you think of the match?
Yeah, well, I was happy to see the War Raiders. I can't call them Viking Raiders. The War Raiders back. I was happy to see the kind of the return to a gimmick that's not so silly. So I enjoyed that a lot. It felt a little bit more like a squash match to me when I watched it, though, because I was like, yeah, it was short, not overly short, but the War Raiders really were kind of in control the whole time, which I think was good because they're trying to reestablish them.
Yeah.
The all these kind of surprise number one contender tag matches. This is one thing too where I feel like that they were trying to find something relevant to do because all of a sudden we're doing a number one contenders tag tournament again because we've already done this pretty recently. We're doing it on both brands. So we saw this on SmackDown as well.
Copy paste.
Where it's like copy paste, but they're all triple threats on SmackDown because there's more teams. So it was just. Are we really why do we have to do a tournament every single time? There's enough tag teams to have consistent challengers to not have to do a long ranks tournament each time. But it was cool. For me, this was a nice surprise to have them back and to have them in their old gimmick.
I agree. I could see that. It seems a little cut and paste here for Raw and SmackDown, and I think it's mainly because they're trying to figure out how to reestablish the dominance of the tag division they had going at one point. Because at one point, I feel WWE had one of the best tag divisions in all of wrestling, and I think they still have the talent. I think they're just trying to figure out what they need, how they want to present it, and I think they're just suffering from so many teams. They're trying to figure out what to do. So we'll see. After that, you had the face-off between Cody Rhodes and Gunther, which was pretty much just a long-winded promo between the two. They really they're really trying to like make a story happen. And I understand because they're trying to get hyped up for Crown Jewel and everything. And kudos to both men. And he's good on the mic. I think people don't know that he actually can speak very well on the mic. Him and Cody going back and forth. A lot of things were said, but nothing was really said until the end when I think they didn't have I don't think they had the mic on Gunther, but it was just like the camera mic. And he's like, good luck to me, champ. And he like walked away. And I was like, nice.
He's like, good luck, champ. And he goes, yes, good luck to me, the champ. It's like, okay. And then he got the heck out of there. And it was just like, oh man, this is just more window dressing.
It is.
Trying to make something out of the Crown Jewel title, and they're really kind of, for me, it's a little much because they did the same thing without Gunther on SmackDown, and I'm like, guys, do we have to do a promo for how great Crown Jewel is going to be every single week? But
they have to, of course, they got to make it a big deal. So, I mean, like I said, it did what it was supposed to do. I guess try and create some kind of storyline there as far as prestige and whose championship means more. I think he called him like the second place champ or something like that. And there was little jabs here that went over pretty well, but nothing too crazy. After that, we had Braun Breaker versus Kofi after a little promo that showed off the dissent between the New Day. Of course, Braun Breaker taking out everybody, and then I know we talked about this last week, but it was kind of I just hate how how they're trying to spin this, and like it's too soon. He's like, everyone's wondering why I turned on Jay. I'm like, dude, you shook his hand 1 week ago, and then you like next week
And I'm
you
like,
speared him.
there's no mystery here. It
There
was
was
like,
no
I bet
face
you're wondering
turn.
what happened.
Yeah,
And yeah,
no,
there was never
we're
a face
not.
turn. He was pleasant for like 5 minutes, and so
Not even
if
pleasant.
anything,
He was just
everyone's like,
respectful. He was just like, hey,
respectful.
respect.
Yeah,
Like, cool. Like,
yeah.
that's it. Yeah. It wasn't
And he
anything.
kind of smiled and moved on, and then went back to being Braun Breaker. So
Yeah.
like, there's no mystery here.
Yeah. But yeah, I get it. It's because Goldberg wants Gunther. So now they got to put that on the back burner. And now they got to put,
Yeah.
they got to put Braun Breaker back in the IC title view. So that's what happened there. But anywho, Kofi Kingston had a pretty decent match against him. It wasn't anything flashy or spectacular. Kofi hit him with pretty much all of his finishers, which neither worked. You even saw the SOS, which was cool to see. That's actually a very interesting finisher to see. I like that SOS.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually, Braun Breaker just took him out with his spear, wins the match, and then starts the beat down. Then Xavier Woods comes out to do the save. And, they get the save, but then he starts getting beat up. And of course, Jey Uso comes out. Why? Because before the match, Kofi told him Jey would come out if it was you, obviously. Yeah. And Jey came out. So, I mean, I get it. We're grasping here, but it's inevitable. I think they're just waiting to pull the trigger to after Crown Jewel because obviously they're just trying to get Crown Jewel out of the way. So that's also why I don't like Crown Jewel.
Yeah, well, that's why. Yeah, that's why I don't like Crown Jewel either. It's like they're kind of manufacturing hype for it the whole time, and kind of holding on everything else that's probably a little bit more interesting. Yeah, this match I was like, it was when I was watching, I was like, this is kind of a long match. I was like, it's solid but unremarkable. I'm like, it's a solid match, but I'm just kind of like, I'm not really invested in Braun Breaker versus Kofi Kingston, and it was fine for what it was. It was just
okay.
Like, I wasn't like super excited about it or blown away.
I agree. It was okay. And the whole, I bet you're wondering why I know, dude, we know. We know. The badass. We know. We get it.
I'm saying Braun Breaker looks like buff Seth Rogen to me now. Every time I see him talking and like, when he says certain things, I'm like, there's just something there now that I'm starting to not take him as seriously anymore. But
but you know what? He did say something. I want to say it was during that little promo thing that I feel is what they should have done to build up the first time he defended against Jey Uso, or not the first time, but when Jey Uso won the title, because he did touch on how Jey rode the coattails of his family to get there, and Braun Breaker didn't, and it showed, right? It showed like when Jimmy and Jey were dancing with Rikishi, which is obviously their dad. And, showing like how they came up because of Rikishi, and Braun Breaker's like, my dad, didn't do anything. I mean, Rick Steiner did retire from wrestling after WCW. He went to go do real estate after, and Braun Breaker came up on his own. Of course, his uncle's, Big Papa Pump, of course.
That probably helps a little bit.
That's why he does the Frankensteiner as a homage to his uncle. And I mean, they'll show Rick Steiner here and there, but you don't ever see Rick Steiner out there talking for his son or trying to so he had a point. And I was like, see, that's the story we should have built in the beginning. Like that would have been cool. Because then that is like, all right, cool. Like it's not just Jey trying to get his first title. That was the whole stick of it. Right. And now I feel like now there's more substance because now it's like, it's envy. It's like you rode your family here. I didn't. I had to work my way. So I like that. So,
but
we'll see.
Yeah, but he's still a legacy though too.
He
like
is.
that. Like Braun Breaker wouldn't have gotten the opportunity that he got at the speed that he got it at had it not been for his.
Maybe he would have gotten there eventually. He would have gotten there eventually. But it was sped up just because his last name was Rick Steiner.
It definitely helps that Scott Steiner and Rick Steiner certainly opened some doors for him. So I have a hard time. There's so many.
I
of them
agree.
Now, though. There's so many.
I agree, but I'm just saying,
legacy kids in there.
Yeah, and I mean, my thing is just that that's the story they should have gone with. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's what they should have gone with. But what do I know? I'm just some guy doing this on the side. But after that, we had a very interesting segment where we had R-Truth versus The Miz scheduled, which, of course, R-Truth is awesome. I love R-Truth.
Yeah.
He came out to face The Miz, but then he comes out in his awesome Truth shirt, which was hilarious. And he came out, did his thing, and of course The Miz comes out. And it was a very short match because you had the Final Testament come out and kind of just stand there at ringside at the entranceway. And Miz was just looking at him like, well, what are you doing here? Because the whole time now, I guess since he couldn't poison Kofi, he didn't poison Xavier. He kind of did
Xavier
planted the
would.
seed. And then now he's going on to the Miz. And again, during this match, we had a little Wyatt Six static glitch kind of thing, which obviously
Yeah,
means that that's who
again,
they're going to
because
go after.
that was the last week you had pointed that out too,
Uh,
like during the Miz backstage segment. So
yeah.
yeah, the Miz is definitely the next victim of the
Yeah.
Wyatt Six of this.
I agree. Which I love. That's how they should be using the Wyatt Six. I feel
Yeah.
that that's how it should be. Like, just, we got them. Great. We had the payoff. And then now it's like they go back away. And then now we just wait for when they come back out again. So I like that.
Yeah.
So, anywho, of course, Biz was distracted a little bit. R-Truth, quick to get the roll up, gets the victory. Normally, I'm not a fan of roll up victories, but in this instance, I'm okay with it because it set up another story, right? So after that, he went and he fist bumped Karrion Kross, who then, as he was walking away, Karrion Kross looked over and just said, "Get him now." And Akam and Razor went, got R-Truth, threw him back in the ring for Miz to hit a skull-crushing finale, which was interesting because, now we're seeing Miz return to being a heel. And it was, of course, the crowd, he got heat for it from the crowd. There wasn't heavy boos, but there was some here. And, he hit R-Truth then, and he kind of still looked like he's starting to turn. So maybe the Miz is going to be the one that's going to go to the Final Testament, but then Wyatt Six will come out. And of course, because it's another stable, we're going to have another, big match coming up, but that'll be great to see. What did you think of the whole? Sure.
Yeah, well, and that's the funny thing. Like, I was looking at the time when this match started, and I was like, something weird's going to happen here because there wasn't enough time for two matches. Because I think this happened like right after like the halfway point of the second hour, and I'm like, we still have the main event to go. And I'm like, this is going to be short, and something strange is going to happen. So when the roll up happened, I wasn't even mad because I don't like surprise roll ups either. But I was like, they're doing something here that the match is going to end really abruptly.
Yeah.
And so, I think it makes perfect sense they've been telegraphing this heel turn with the Miz. There's no easier way to make somebody a bad guy than have them go after R-Truth. Like, everybody loves R-Truth, so it's like if you want to get some cheap heat pretty quickly, that's what you do. And I like the fact that apparently Karrion Kross really is good at sabotaging people because he's now successfully done it twice. Xavier Woods has, for all intents and purposes, turned, and the Miz as well. So I'm curious, like, if Woods just goes off and does his own thing, or if he ever kind of realigns with the Final Testament, or like what's going to happen here long term with this. But it was good. I like it. I like heel Miz too. I think he's better as a heel.
I agree.
So this was all good stuff for me.
After that was the main event: Rhea Ripley, Tiffany Stratton versus Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, and they had their match there. Of course, it was interesting because Rhea just didn't want anything to do with Tiffany's strategy. Just sort of sit at the corner and just let her do her thing, and she did for the most part. You had both teams going in. You had actually a pretty interesting move when you had Rhea Ripley and Tiffany Stratton arguing outside of the ring, and then Raquel gets Liv and just like gets her and just like power bombs her out of the ring into like a trust fall, which was really cool to see. Again, these two were tag team champions at one point, so they do have that chemistry together, and they blend well together. So there was a lot of back and forth. I think Tiffany Stratton was tagging herself in at one point just to kind of, get some blows and fight. And it just, went back and forth until finally Rhea Ripley hit the riptide, but Raquel stopped it from getting the pinfall. And then after that, they were just going at each other ringside. But then that's when Nia Jax came out and ended the match in a no contest, right? It was a DQ because she came in. But see, again, this was also up there for me for match of the night just because of what happened after. So they had a great tease for a cash-in because Nia Jax just decimated, took out Raquel, then took Liv and just beat the hell out of her and hit her with her finisher, the
Annihilator.
Yes, the Annihilator. Thank you. Hit her with the Annihilator, and she was just left there, and she's looking at Tiffany Stratton just standing there looking, and Nia's like,
right, she goes like this. She's like, "Come on." Which makes sense. It was like, just do it. Yeah. Liv's already here.
She was out. Yeah, she was done. And so she went, she's like, oh, shoot. So she went and got her briefcase. And as she was cashing in, Dominic came in and pulled Liv out of the ring and carried her out. So it was good because you didn't have Raquel because they sold the fact that Nia just obliterated her. So you had Dom come in for the save. And of course, that brought in heavy boost because everyone wanted Tiffany to cash in. That would have been an epic cash in on Raw. It would have been awesome to see. But yeah, so that was interesting to see. It was fun. It was a good tease.
Yeah. It was a good tease, and I was almost like, man, I wish they had done the cash in. And the
Yeah.
reason being is especially with the lead up to Crown Jewel, I haven't been super excited about anything. I would have been excited if they did the cash in, and now they changed the Crown Jewel match to Tiffany
Yep.
Stratton versus Nia for the Crown Jewel Championship. So neither of their titles are on the line, and then you can do the whole falling out with them, and
Yeah.
whoever wins, if you have Tiffany end up beating her and being the first ever Crown Jewel champion, that would have been cool to me. Like that would have been a match
Yeah.
I would have gotten up for.
No, I agree. I agree.
When they didn't do that, I was like, oh man, I was like, that would have
Yeah.
been really cool if they'd.
I mean,
pushed her around.
I thought the same thing. I was like, that'd be cool to see because then you'd have Nia Jax on SmackDown tell Tiffany like, you're just gonna lay down for me, right? Because you're my friend, and Tiffany's gonna be like,
Yeah.
no, and
Like,
then that's
hell
when
no.
you, yeah. So then you have like all that. I agree. But that was
Well, yeah, you've had all the buildup and the animosity between them, and it's like,
Yeah.
now it's
There's
like,
your
hey,
story.
This
yeah.
this title that you've been promoting this entire time about how majestic it is, and it's got so many
Yeah.
diamonds in it, and it's the most prestigious, most beautiful title WWE's ever created. Make that the thing that Tiffany wants that, and it's Tiffy time, and she's not going to lay down for Nia, so like that would have been fun. I mean, I guess they still got like a week to try to figure that out, but I don't think there's going to
Yeah.
be cash in
Nah.
on Monday night.
This would have been the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
But that was Raw. It was an okay show. I would give it maybe about like a B minus.
Yeah. It's a
Just
B show
'cause-
for me too, just because
Yeah.
there's not much happening at this point.
Mhm.
Like I
It-
really
it's
do
not-
feel like we're in this holding
yeah.
pattern.
And it's not creators' fault. I think it's just because we have Crown Jewel coming up. Everything's kind of on hold until after the fact because you can't really
Yeah.
put no storyline. So, I mean, it is what it is. But SmackDown had some
is.
stuff going on.
And SmackDown did, but I will say thematically, SmackDown was copy paste of Raw.
Yeah, it was.
for a couple of reasons. First off, we opened the show with the recap, kind of showing everything, which they always spend like 5 to 7 minutes just recapping stuff that happened last week. And then you had the Bloodline heading straight to the ring for a promo.
Oh,
Solo
sorry.
doing his thing.
Sorry,
Yeah,
one thing
go ahead.
I forgot to mention. Raw throughout the show. That was my fault. I missed the note. Throughout the show, you had Jimmy trying to hunt down
Yeah,
Jay
Trying to recruit
because he's
Jay,
trying to
yeah.
recruit him, and Jay just wants nothing to do with it. So that's
Yeah.
important because go for it.
Because of this. Yeah, well, and it's funny because they didn't like you thought there was going to be more to it. It really was like, here's Jimmy backstage, like sitting in the waiting or sitting
Yeah.
in the locker
In
room.
the locker room,
and
waiting
then
for him.
Surprise, waiting for him, and then he's like walking in the hallway, like, hey, and he's like, the answer's still no. Like nothing happened
Yeah.
except for like two bump ins, and then it was
Yeah.
like, okay, I guess the recruitment didn't work. And then you ended up here on SmackDown. So you have Solo coming down to the ring and just doing his usual, South Carolina, acknowledge me. And then he's basically said, he created a bigger, stronger bloodline, and that Roman and Jimmy couldn't do anything about it, and that Jay didn't want to have anything to do with it either, based off of what happened on Monday night. And then Roman would keep getting beat down unless he acknowledged Solo by the end of the night. And then you had Jay's music hit, and everybody went wild. So Jay came down to the ring, and he said he wasn't here to fight Solo, that he still cares about him, he's his brother, and that Roman and Jimmy weren't there yet, so he was here on his own, and that Jay wanted Solo to think about what he's doing to the family, and that the Ulafala is earned, not taken. He shouldn't be dividing the family. Of course, Solo wasn't hearing any of this. He said he's the chief. And then he just asked Jay if he's in or he's out. Jay was clearly out at this point. Did threaten to knock out Jacob. He just had a little rant about, why'd you bring in Jacob? We don't associate with these guys. If he keeps looking at me like this, I'm going to knock him out, which is kind of a cool moment. Everybody went nuts for that. And then he said, Jay said next time that Jay sees Solo, that things will be different. That's all he said. Things will be different. And then he just took off. And that was it. Pretty anticlimactic. Like, it was just like the teaser. Jay took off and went home. Not a lot of new stuff. It was fine. I mean, I think they're doing the slow build on this because they do have time, because they are building towards Survivor Series for this one. So they're trying not to rush it. And this is really the theme of tonight, was try not to rush this story, at least for me. But what did you think of the opening segment?
I mean, I kind of like what they're trying to pull there. I like how Solo's still trying to manipulate Jay, and
Yeah,
saying how like, no, I'm not trying. I'm trying to unite the family. This is for the family. And it's really not. It's Solo just being selfish.
of
I liked the
course.
little bit
Yeah,
there where he was like, "Don't call me little brother," because Jay kept referring to him as little brother. And I
little
thought that
brother.
was
Yeah,
yeah. So little jabs like that, and then there was interesting where he said, why do you think we never messed with them? Why did you bring them?" Pointing to like Jacob and Gorillas of Destiny. And so
yeah,
he's like, why did you bring them? He's like, there's a reason we never brought them in. There's a reason we don't mess with them. Like the kind of insinuating like they're above them, and that
yeah,
was interesting to see. I love the tease when he told Jacob, "You don't stop looking at me like that, I'm gonna knock you out." And Jacob just like stepped up and like they had that stare down, and I was like, damn, what an intercontinental title match that would be. Like
yeah.
Jacob
That would
and
be great.
Jake. Oh my God. That would be epic. But yeah, so I like the little story building they did. They had the kind of denial there in Jay where he's like when Solo told him, "I'm trying to do this for the family," and Jay kind of thought about it like, well, yeah, well, and he kind of was thinking, and it was kind of I like that little story bits here and there. So overall it was an effective opening segment.
Yeah, certainly effective for what they're trying to do and carry that storyline forward. And then we got the first match of the night, which was Triple Threat Tag Team Qualifiers. Since apparently we were doing Tag Team Qualifiers on SmackDown as well, like we're copy
Uh-huh.
paste, rinse and repeat. Except these are Triple Threat ones instead of singles or regular singles matches. So
Yeah.
we had Pretty Deadly, DIY, and the Street Profits all in one Triple Threat match. It was
Uh-huh.
very solid. All three teams are really, really good. A
Yeah.
lot of great double team moves by the teams. Like we know these three teams and we know they're all
Yeah.
talented. We did get a
Naturally.
long commercial break,
Yeah.
long picture-in-picture commercial, and then this one kind of had an odd ending. I think they were just trying to be creative with the ending.
Uh-huh.
Where there was one point where DIY and the Street Profits both had a cover on each member of Pretty Deadly,
Right.
but only one person is legal. And Kit Wilson was the legal man, and Ciampa was pinning him. So even though they both got the simultaneous pin, like the ref had to go back and look at it and say, DIY won because they pinned the legal man.
Yeah.
So it was just
Which
kind of
they
an
did.
odd,
Yeah.
which they did, and it
Yeah.
made sense. But it was just kind of like they tried to make it controversial and confusing for the sake of a unique ending, I think. But DIY
Yeah.
advanced. I don't
Yeah.
really have any complaints there. It was a
Uh-huh.
good match. Biggest complaint for me was just the long commercial in the middle. But it worked
Yeah,
for
that
me.
long ad break was killer. But I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it was fun. It was nice. It
yeah,
was a good palate cleanser from the intro and just kind of getting the action going. Right, you had three tag teams that just do well together, and they got the crowd hyped.
yeah.
They got the crowd going. So lots of good spots. I think even the crowd getting into talking trash to Pretty Deadly with the "You look stupid" chants. I thought that was hilarious. And
Yeah.
it's just overall, I was entertained.
Yeah, it was entertaining. And then right after this, we got Nia Jax and Nick Aldis talking about the main events. The main event was supposed to be Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax against Naomi and Bailey, but apparently
Uh-huh.
Tiffany Stratton had the flu, so she needed to find another partner. And Candice LeRae just popped up and was like, "I'll do it." And they're like, "All right." So it's Candice LeRae, Nia Jax in the main
Works.
event. So I was like, "Cool, okay, odd, strange, like right on."
Yeah.
And then that also made me think more about the copy paste where the main
Rita
event
didn't
on
want to
Raw
team with
was
Tiffany. Yeah.
yeah, didn't want to team with Tiffany. It was the main event on Raw was a women's tag match with a reluctant team, and then the main event on SmackDown was a women's tag match with a reluctant
Uh-huh.
assembled team at the last second. So literally
Yeah.
copy pasted the main events.
Pretty.
Next one out was Piper Niven taking on Lash Legend. This was a solid match. This was
I
really
actually
good.
enjoyed this
Uh,
match very much. Yes.
I enjoyed it a lot. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. It was kind of the battle of the powerhouse women.
Yeah.
This was also an opportunity for Lash Legend to kind of show off a little bit because she is so physically
Yeah.
strong. So she was
She
doing a lot of
is.
ragdolling of Piper. Piper did a crossbody where she caught her
Yeah.
and slammed her. And then Lash hit her finisher on Piper, which is also pretty impressive as well,
Uh-huh.
because it took quite a feat of strength to do that. It was a short match, but I enjoyed it. Again, it was like quick action. This was a lot of fun for me, and it was a good showcase for Lash Legend, so I liked it.
I agree, and I think it's also because when you have someone who does power moves like that's constantly doing hard spots like that, it can't be a long match because I mean you'll get gassed, you'll be tired,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was good to see, and you have Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill at ringside, of course, reacting accordingly to help further that storyline. So I enjoyed it. It was short, sweet, to the point, and it did what it was supposed to do. It made Lash Legend look strong and as a formidable foe because I think the first time they presented them, nobody really knew who they were unless you watched NXT. So this did
Yeah.
the trick. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, certainly did the trick. And then right before this match, we had the segment with Roman and Jimmy arriving, and they were kind of being buddies. And then they bumped into Jay for 2 seconds, and Roman grabbed Jay's arm and was like, "Hey, man, I'm proud of you." And then Jay was like, "No yeet," and then
Yeah.
walked out, which is the reference to last week. So it was about as short as that. It was like
Yeah.
really quickly. And then right after this match, you had Roman and Jimmy backstage again, still talking. A few references to the Wise Man about the Wise Man not
Yeah.
being there. So I'm hoping that means Paul Heyman's coming back soon because
Yeah.
they've thrown that out a few times. And that he wasn't a wise man, but he was working out a plan. And basically, the plan he was working out was, I guess I'm going to have to acknowledge Solo. That was the conditions for the night. So that was the teaser at this point. Was
Yeah.
Roman's going to acknowledge Solo. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun, and then you wait until we get to the main event. So that's the filler before we get to the which I call it the main event, which is like the last segment of the night, which really is
The main
of
event
SmackDown.
segment. That's what we'll call it.
The main event segment. So,
The mess.
what was it? The mess. Exactly. It really is the mess. What wasn't the main event segment was another Crown Jewel teaser. Cody Rhodes out to cut another Crown Jewel promo.
But
and
this time
was
in
kind
front
of
of
a
the
long
title.
one. In front of the title. They got the title out there bragging about Crown Jewel and the title. And I'm like, oh no, like, are we going to do this every single week where they say, this is so prestigious. I want to tell my little kid that I was the first ever Crown Jewel champ. Like they're spending so much time overhyping the importance of this that it made me like want to vomit in my mouth a little bit because I'm like, come on, like this isn't like the NWA title, dude. Like
Yeah.
let's
It's going to be
keep it
forgotten
real
shortly
here.
after. Yeah.
It will be quickly forgotten. This is it's a pretty meaningless title. No Gunther though. He didn't pop up, but he did invite Gunther to SmackDown next week to talk more about it and for them to banter and rebuttal back and forth. So
Like they
I
didn't
guess
do it
we'll
on
get
Raw.
More of that. Yeah, and I was like, I thought you guys already had this. He's like, I'm inviting him to SmackDown for rinse and repeat because this is all we're doing for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
And then that segment was over. And then we got a weird pre-tape promo of Kevin Owens, who I completely forgot about, which I didn't. I got to ask you for your thoughts on this promo because I wasn't wild about it. It was just Kevin Owens saying, complaining about being asked to stay home for one little ambush. He's like, everybody beats up people backstage. Everybody acts a fool, but I got sent home? Really?
Yeah.
Come on. I'm not appreciated. And then he's like, Randy betrayed me, I guess, for picking Cody's side.
Yeah.
And that between disrespect and Randy breaking his trust, he just doesn't know when he's coming back. And it was just like, okay. And then Randy Orton popped out and told Nick Aldis that he wants a match at Crown Jewel against Kevin Owens. And he's like, Randy, it's not my call. It's from up above. And I'm like, God?
Vince?
The man upstairs. And I'm like, wait a second, the man upstairs. And he looks up in the sky, and then Randy's like, well, I guess I know what I have to do. And I'm like, well, you figure that out, Randy Orton. So we're probably getting Randy versus KO at Crown Jewel. But what did you think about this whole?
I don't think we'll get Randy versus Kevin.
You don't think so?
Kevin Owens doesn't do Crown Jewel matches because he doesn't like Saudi. He's never done. I don't think. Somebody I'm sure will correct me if I'm wrong, but he doesn't do Crown Jewel because he doesn't believe in the stuff that the bad stuff,
he's like
right?
yeah.
So
and there's several wrestlers that don't travel for that.
Yeah,
show.
Sami Zayn was one of them for the longest time until
longest
Sami
time,
wasn't
yeah,
allowed. Sami wasn't allowed. But
yeah, that
now
was different.
he's-
Sammy wasn't welcome there, and then they softened their stance.
Yeah, but I think that's why Kevin's gonna be gone for a period of time because he doesn't want to say I don't want to be at Crown Jewel, so I'm gonna be off for a couple of weeks now. I think that's what it is. Personally, I think that's what it is. I think there's more to the storyline that can be built than what he said. I just think because we're like a week away from Crown Jewel, and they kind of just gotta pull something out of their ass to say hey, we got this, or we're doing this, or just we need to move you away, we need to move you away, we need to bring you in. So I don't think we'll get them. I think maybe we'll get them at Survivor Series because they can build their feud a little bit more. But I mean, who knows? Who knows? I could be wrong. It could be Crown Jewel with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, and they'll have a street fight or something, or some kind of Punjabi cage match. Or,
Punjabi
I hope
prison
not.
match.
Yeah. I hope not. But I
Yeah, they'll
mean,
figure something out. I'm not real like hyped for it though. Like for me, I'm like, I don't really need to see Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton.
not right
But
now.
yeah,
Let's build that a little bit
yeah,
more. I don't want some kind of gimmicky match for Crown Jewel. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm being a smartass, right? Because I don't want to see it. I want to see before people start saying stuff, right? But no, I want to see this built up more. Like I feel there's
yeah.
still meat. There's still meat on the bone to kind of gnaw at, and I think they just need to kind of ride this out a little bit more. So I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. And then after this, we got another tag team qualifier, which was A Town Down Under versus Los Garza, who's representing Legado del Fantasma, versus the mystery tag team that they had been teasing,
And I
which
was
we had
wrong.
speculated last week. Yeah,
Damn
I
it.
know. We speculated it was the Lucha Brothers. It wasn't. It was the Motor City Machine Guns from TNA and among other places. They've been around for a very long
Actually,
time.
really good. Yeah, great tag
Yeah,
team.
for me, the coolest tag team name
Yeah.
in a long time.
Yeah.
I've seen them for years and years. Alex
Yeah.
Shelley and Chris Sabin, but this match was my match of the night. I thoroughly enjoyed this one.
I agree.
The Motor City Machine Guns were really excellent here. I like the fact that they got talked up on commentary a lot.
Yeah, they did.
Which was good. They talked about, hey, this is the best. Your favorite tag team's favorite tag team was what Corey Graves kept talking about. You did get another long commercial break here too, which I wasn't crazy about, but it was picture in picture.
Yeah.
And this one was. It was really, really great, and I also love the fact that the Motor City Machine Guns won. Here,
I agree.
Shelley hit the splash on Berto. They won in their debut. That was the right call. It was for me the match of the night. It shot them out of a cannon, and they deserve it. They've been around for a really long time. They're really well established, and they're really great. So this was excellent for me and my favorite moment.
Same here. This was my match of the night. Motor City Machine Guns are awesome. I love watching them. They are a great tag team. They work extremely well together. And I'm excited to see them versus DIY for the number one contendership. I'm confident they're going to give it to Motor City Machine Guns because DIY have already had their time. And I think now it's going to be Motor City Machine Guns. They're just going to let them run wild. And I think it's going to be great. I think it's a great call. Again, great match, great spots, bunch of spots. I mean, Motor City Machine Guns have been around for a while. They're not just some young up and coming. They, like you said, they've been around for quite some time.
They're
the
well
rounds.
established.
Yeah.
Like how long have they been? Like 17 years or something?
Yeah, like 17. 17, 18 years. Yeah.
They've been wrestling for a really long time, and like they're so fluid, they're so talented.
Yeah,
so this is great. I just worry that because I assume they're going to advance and they're going to face Tama Tonga and Tongaloa.
Yeah.
And
for that match, they better come out in their Gorillas of Destiny war paint. That should be awesome.
Well, they better and they better win. Like don't have them go in there and lose to the Bloodline. But I don't know. We'll see. Well, they've got time to build this up a little bit. But I am looking forward to them versus DIY because that should be really great too. That should be a fun match.
Agree.
And then after that, Carmelo Hayes and Andrade brawled for 2 seconds. And they just basically wanted to set this up to mention that LA Knight's going to be the special guest referee for Carmelo versus Andre Game 7, as they're calling it next week on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Wah, wah. But they got to mix it up, so they're throwing in LA Knight in there as a special guest referee because it's only so many times you can just have them wrestle each other. And then we have main event before the final segment. Which is the women's match. Naomi and Bayley taking on Nia Jax and Candice LeRae. So here's my deal with this match. I didn't love it as a main event. The match was fine. I always get that impression that WWE knows when a match isn't very significant when they cut away to a non-picture-in-picture commercial.
Yeah.
Which they did. They did here. It was like, we're not doing picture-in-picture. We're just giving you a standard long commercial break.
Just throw it in.
Who cares? Like we don't really care what the outcome is, so it makes it hard for me to care what the outcome was. And the match ended pretty shortly after that long commercial break, where basically it was kind of like, more cheapness, where Indy Hartwell, attacked Bayley at ringside when the ref wasn't looking, and then fed her to Candice, who hit a moonsault and got the pin, and then Nia looked upset that Candice got the win, even though their team won, that she wasn't the one who won. And then it just ended. There wasn't like any fallout. Nia didn't attack Candice LeRae or anything. It was just like, all right, they won. That's that.
Yeah.
Candice and Indy still cheat. In case everybody forgot, That's their new thing. So this one was a little bit of a letdown, especially coming off of the tag team qualifier match. This was just kind
Yeah,
of felt like a little bit of a flat way to limp into the finish line.
I agree. And on top of that, I'll take it a step further and say that the last time we saw Nia in the ring was on Raw, where she almost had
Yeah,
Tiffany Stratton cash in. So like that was also like a high moment, right? And the match was okay. I mean, I'm happy that Candice
yeah,
LeRae and Indy Hartwell are getting some spotlight action. They deserve it, but at the same time, it's just kind of like we could have done without this match and maybe extended another match instead, you know. But
yeah,
I feel this did nothing for the storyline. Of course, it just helped build Nia Jax as like a feared champion because, um, when Candice like this, she went into the ring and she told the ref, "No, you raised my hand, only my hand." You know, little things like that. Little bits to
yeah.
help build the story, which is fine. But yeah, it was okay.
Well, and Nia Jax, to your point, was involved in both main events this week. So she was
Yeah,
she was involved in the main event on Raw, kind of coming out at the end to do the attack, and then was
yeah,
obviously in the main event on SmackDown. So I'm like, you really
yeah,
were like we can't spread around some of the love, but that was it was what it was. And then we got to the real main event, which was just the segment at the end with Roman walking out to apparently acknowledge Solo. So he walked out
mm,
first, and then he said, but then when he said, "All right, everyone, maybe for the last time, acknowledge me," and I'm like, "Maybe? Okay, you're not going to
uh-huh,
acknowledge him." Like as soon as he said maybe, I was like, "You don't say
yeah,
maybe. You just say for the last time, and then change your mind." So we made it clear he wasn't acknowledging Solo. Solo walked out though, and then Roman said, "Solo said the family was stronger now, but it's not. We're divided." And that Roman had told his father that he could fix this, and that he wants to put them back in the promised land, making money, all that good stuff. And
yeah,
said, "What do I have to do to fix it?" And basically, Solo was like, "What do you mean? Like it's easy. You have to acknowledge me." And then Roman's like, "I
uh-huh,
acknowledge you. You feel better?" And he's like, "Not good enough. You got to acknowledge me as the
yeah,
tribal chief."
yeah.
And it was like,
Of
okay,
course,
but yeah, of course. And then he's like, or else. And then Roman's like, or else what? And then he's
yeah.
like, well, yeah, you didn't change. Clearly, you're not out here. And which I was like, Roman, how did you think this was going to go?
I mean, he came
Like
out in ring
you,
gear.
yeah, well, I'm like, dude, you need the wise man. Clearly, you need the wise man back because this is a terrible plan. Like, I don't know
Yeah,
how you didn't think Solo was going to get mad or not or let you off the hook and be like, oh yeah, I just needed you to acknowledge who I was as a person, and I've been fine with that. All right, let's go, Tribal Chief. Like, that's not how it's going to go.
yeah.
And so, and he was like, Roman, you haven't changed at all, and I'm like, duh, obviously. And then the rest of the bloodline came out, and they were dragging a lifeless Jimmy, who they had beaten up in the
Yeah.
back, obviously. Brawl ensued with Roman getting the upper hand initially, and then got overtaken again because he got
Uh-huh.
distracted by the Ula Fala. He did the whole, let me slowly put this. I'm like, dude, maybe just throw it on real quick and then go back to brawling because this is like the second or third time he's been ambushed while slowly trying to put on the Ula
Yeah.
Fala. So Roman then got beat down again and then ate two more Samoan spikes, and everyone was waiting for Jay to come running
They were
down,
chanting.
and
Uh-huh.
they were chanting for it. I was expecting it, and
Nope.
nothing. No rundown, no save from Jay yet. Bloodline stands tall. Roman Reigns got his weekly beating, and that's that's how he went off air. And I get they're doing the slow cook on this one, but I'm like,
Yeah.
now it just makes Roman look like an idiot. That like last week they're like, hey man, we need help. Don't just walk into it with these guys because we're gonna get our butts kicked. And then what does
Yeah.
he do? He just went out there by himself. He didn't even come and take Jimmy with him and got his butt kicked again. So Roman looks a little clueless right now. He's looking a little Cody Rhodes esque in terms of poor decision making. So it was fine. I was fine in the sense that I know I'm ragging on it a lot, but I also know they're doing a slow build and they didn't just want to have Jay run out and pay this off immediately. So it was fine. It just gets a little cumbersome to see every single week Roman making the same mistake.
I can see that. My perspective is slightly different. I feel that him doing this it's kind of a callback to what Jay said last week. He's like, we need help. We can't do this on our own. We need help. And Roman just being stubborn and saying, no, this was the wake up call to him that like, yeah, you don't have your wise man to help you formulate a tactful plan that will work. You don't have another cousin in Jay to come out and help you. You don't have even Sammy at this point to help you. Like you're not thinking of everything at once because you're used to just rolling with an iron fist and just coming out, performing, doing your thing, handling business in the ring and then leaving. Like that's your deal. That's what you do. And I feel like this is furthering that. The crowd was wanting Jay to come out. I think it was the right call to not have Jay come out still because that's you need. I always said he's going to be a last minute addition to the original bloodline. He's going to be a last minute joining is what's going to happen, and it's going to take some kind of bigger act. I think you're going to have to get Paul Heyman and probably even Sammy so that he can convince Jay, so that they can bring the band back together. I think that's where that's headed. But I think that's what this was kind of proving. It was proving that Roman can't do this on his own. He clearly can't plot on his own. He doesn't think of every possible outcome. So I think that's where this that's what it did for the story. And I think it was
I agree with all that.
Yeah. And I think this was a good way. Yeah, I think this was a good way to steer for now. I think it was a good outcome. This was what should have happened. It helps Solo look strong. It helps him look good. And I think that's what was lacking before. Solo really never did anything, so people didn't see how dominant he can be. And I think this is what that's doing. So I'm totally cool with that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, but that was a segment. I mean, it's, of course, Bloodline 2.0 standing tall. But we'll see what happens next week.
Yeah, they stood tall, and that was SmackDown. I think SmackDown was a little bit better than Raw this week, so I'll give it a B plus.
I give it an A-.
I was like, it. Oh, you're a generous grader there, Big T.
Well, mainly because here's why: because you built up the new tag, you built up Lash Legend, you made her look good. You're putting over fresh talent. I liked the match with DIY. I liked Motor City Machine Guns coming out on top. I thought that was a great debut.
That's fair.
And then the ending. So to me, it was like out of all the segments there, this one kind of had like a more good. And of course the sound,
that's why I gave it a B plus.
Yeah, the bread layer between you had Jay and Solo having that conversation, and then Roman getting decimated, kind of complimenting each other. So that's just me. That's just the way I think. But yeah, I agree. I like it.
That's fair. I'm gonna be a harsh grader and go it is B and B plus.
That's cool.
B plus.
Cool.
Well then Raw will be B minus. So B minus, B plus. We'll create some separation there. But it was fun. B plus is a good grade for me. So that was it for Raw and SmackDown this week. We got Crown Jewel coming up. Is it a week from Saturday already?
Next week. Next week.
It's
26th.
Next week, so
is it 26th?
It will be I think it's the 26th. So then we'll have
check my calendar.
We only have one more Raw and one more SmackDown.
Oh, November 2nd. Sorry, November 2nd.
November 2nd. Okay, so we got 2 more weeks of stalling. We'll see how it plays out for the next couple of weeks. But that's what we got on the recap this week. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate the support as always. Leave us your comments and all that good stuff as well. And until next week, I've been Michael D'Angelo. He's been Big D. Daryl Ortiz. So long, everybody. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you soon.
Yep.